in today's lesson, I'm going to teach you exactly how to learn more about how to create melodies across every single genre of music. So let's say you want to learn something about how to make vintage sounding melodies, you want to make house stuff, R&B, pop. I'm going to give you essentially the ultimate hack for learning any genre you want to very quickly, starting with the melodies, and I'll show you how you can apply this exact technique to also learn about how to make drums, because I think nowadays as a producer and an artist, it's so important to be flexible because the music scene is moving so fast now, especially with things like TikTok. And not only is it beneficial from a career standpoint to be able to do lots of different stuff, but it also gives you like flexibility, right? Like if you need to make beats and try to make a career out of that versus doing something else like placements or people requesting certain things, being flexible can essentially add a lot of options to you as a producer and artist. Not to mention, most producers and artists, if you're like me, like to make a bunch of different genres of music anyways, so this can be very useful for that as well. So I'm about to play this vintage sample, and for you guys listening, one, I always recommend this, but make sure you're listening in headphones or speakers, or even car speakers are pretty good. It's okay if you listen on a laptop or something. It's just ideal if you listen to a better set of speakers or headphones. And as I play the sample, I want you to listen and try to dissect every single little element that makes this melody special. Okay, so some of you guys, heard the main bass guitar. Some of you guys heard the counter melody, right? Because if you really think about the little bell type sounds, but like how many of you heard the drone? Or like the little details in the back. So now let's go ahead and dive in and see exactly what made this thing so special. So if you go into the stem layers, this is what makes Cymatics samples really so valuable. It's not just using them, it's actually what you can learn from them. It's kind of like the give a man a fish he eats once, but teach a man to fish he eats for a lifetime. So this will give you more knowledge and experience on expanding other genres and learning how to do stuff yourself, which can be very beneficial. So here, once I drag it all in, as you can see, there is a lot of different stuff happening to really make this melody special. So first we have this little accent here. Really good, but in the context of everything, it's kind of hard to hear, right? It's hard to isolate when you just listen to that full loop, but when you break it down, what does that tell you? Oh, that means like later, let's say you're diving through your samples here, you go to the ear candy folder and you have accents. These little things, right? Now you just learned how to use them in context, right? When you're making your own melody, be like, oh man, I need like an accent for this. This will probably make it a little better, but let's keep going, listen to the elements. I think that's a really groovy bass line, especially with this sample. So that's like a cool thing you can think about. Let's keep going. So simplistic, right? Like, I barely even heard that. I didn't even pick up that symbol. The thing about music is, it's kind of like sometimes you listen to it and you don't actually think about what's happening. You just enjoy the music, which is a great thing. It's not a bad thing. It's not always good to just hear every element from a producer / artist standpoint, but sometimes you just kind of feel the vibe. It's like watching a movie. Do you always want to be analyzing how the shots are done, or sometimes do you want to be just enjoying and encapsulated in the actual movie itself? And sometimes with the music, I didn't even hear the symbol. Keys. Cool. I hear some movement on the keys itself, so if I were to do like emulate this, like having like an E piano with some movement on it could be cool. This is that element I talked about, which was this lead. This was like the more obvious one. Like listen to these strings, okay? First off, look how quiet they are, like in context of the whole thing. The strings are not playing any sort of major role. And I actually thought it was a drone when I mentioned it earlier, because these are just kind of sitting and creating a bed for the melody to be in. Like listen to it. It's like helping fill out the melody quite a bit. And when I remove that layer, do you see how just like, it still sounds good, but the strings, these like little background strings that are processed in this way, because these are not like normal strings, right? So if I were to pull up something like Flex and I were to pull up some strings, like that's a string. That's a very loud string, but that's not what they did. Listen to how they processed it. It's very, very minimal, but it's just filling up the bed. It's almost creating the environment for the melody to sit in. it's adding so much emotion to it, right? And these are the little details of what I'm talking about, how much value you can get by diving into the stem layers themselves. I would even spend a day or even start off like as an exercise for like 5 minutes a day, just pull in all the stem layers and listen individually and just think about like, oh, this melody's cool. What is making it special? So yeah, right here, this string layer is already telling me when I want to do something like that, it might be good, but it might be missing 5 to 10% of like feeling and polish only because it's missing something like this in the melody. And let's listen to the last element, the vibraphone. Even that, listen to how high pitched that sounds. I didn't even notice. Let me play it all together. See, now it's so obvious, right? It's so obvious. And then one of the cool parts is you can kind of like mute different layers and listen to how like the whole melody continues to interact. See, immediately when I mute other elements of the loop itself, I'm able to learn how certain layers go from being, let's say, like I like to think about it like a movie, right? Who's the main character of the movie and who are the side characters of the movie, right? So when this loop is playing all together, okay, I think the main character is actually the bass line. And then it does a little call and response with this lead. So those are like the two things that are kind of like the main character plus like the second main character / side character. And then everybody else is just like a random character in the plot helping progress the story. But one of the cool parts is the second I mute a handful of layers, I'm able to learn more about how these sounds will also sound in a different context. So you can also learn a lot just by muting layers and see how these layers interact with each other. So now by muting 3 different layers, watch how this vibraphone that was barely even audible becomes like a main player to the melody. The high pitched one. And even that accent comes to life when less sounds are in it. And then if I were to do this same thing, I'm going to mute this, I'm going to mute this, and I'm going to bring this back. And now without that bass, also the character of it changes quite a bit. Let's say we get rid of this. Let's just do this with the... right? And now the tone of this thing changes entirely. So not only do you want to study these sample layers to know exactly what makes them special from an individual perspective and kind of pull back the curtain and kind of see what's going on, but then you also want to play with the layers a little bit and see how they interact with each other. This right here is going to get you really good at mixing as well, because low-key mixing these layers together is honestly like, it's like foundational. If you know how to mix these stem layers together, you know how to get a great mix. Another thing you can do is I would also play around with, like I said, it's not just understanding, but it's playing with a little bit, right? So I would take some of these and like this layer right here, I'm just going to pitch it down, right? So it was here. I'm just going to pitch it down 1 octave, reintroduce the bass, and I'm going to pitch this one down too. I'm going to pitch this one down an octave as well. Keep that one high. Turn the strings down. So you can also ask yourself, like, what does this stuff sound like? Not only what does this stuff sound like when it's played with different layers, but you can try different volume levels, different pitches, right? I would even take it up a notch. So what you can do is you can change each one of these to the stretch mode, or change the mode to stretch. And then what this will allow me to do is change the BPM. But do you see how those stay locked in place, but these are kind of going crazy? Yeah, well, if you change them all to from resample to stretch, it'll keep it at that same position so they don't go off. You can also go to macros here, switch audio clips to stretch. And every DAW has a version of this. So if you're having this issue with your DAW, let's say it's something else, what you need to do is look into the stretch modes. But another thing you can do is change the speed of the sample. So it's faster. Slower. So then you can really just feel this thing out, saying like, what does this sound like in different contexts, right? Okay, so we're gonna do the same exercise here, but now I'm gonna play an EDM sample just so you guys can hear something that's on a completely different side of the spectrum. Okay, cool. So real quick, I'm gonna drag in all the layers and let's see what we can learn about this loop. Okay, so the obvious layer is the lead, right? But then let's see what else is making this thing special. So here's a lead, but if we mute that, let's see what else is going on. Okay, interesting. First thing that I'm seeing here is that the producer that created this melody loop was using a mid bass. Most likely they were doing a mid bass so they can try and get it to really stand out on multiple sets of speakers and to have that mid range strong, and then they have a separate sub layer that's just hidden. So together, so one without the other, you know, if you just had a sub bass, sure, it might sound good in the club speakers, but it's not going to sound good on a phone or anything like that, or have any character or tone to it. And then the mid-range bass is great, but it might be lacking a little bit of that low end it needs. That's a good piece of information to know if you're trying to make this genre music, or you feel like you're having a similar issue, right? Let's see what else they have in here. There's a pluck. Awesome. Pluck in the same, you know. That's cool. So first thing I'm hearing is a swell. Volume automation. So I'm already thinking in my head, if I want to make this, maybe I get a piano and I do some volume automation on it. And not only that, I was hearing little delays in the piano. See, once again, like this sound. It's good, but just like how that one sample had that string sample that was filling the bed of the melody, that's kind of what this piano's doing. It's really filling the environment of the sound. Like, listen to this pluck alone, and then listen to when this piano layer's in there. That's without it. And here's the piano layer. Right? It's just adding a lot to it. It's not like a main character of the show, but it's contributing a lot to the melody. Let's listen to the second half all together and then try to think about what's going on there as well. Okay, couple things I like. I love the change in melody. Because before it was doing this. That's cool, but I actually like this. More simple. Listen to it. You hear, I hear a big reverb. I also hear a ping pong delay. Which is cool. Let's listen to other layers in the second half. Same thing going on with these. So those three are doing the same thing. And then here, there's a new pad that comes in. I wasn't even hearing that really all together, but it's probably filling out the thing quite a bit. You feel the difference there? Like, you really got to listen, guys. And that's why I said watch this. You should be watching this entire audio program, like I said, in headphones or at least studio speakers. You can rewatch it on laptops and stuff because I think you need to watch the whole thing multiple times. But this right here, it's filling out the melody so much, but you don't even know it's there when you're initially listening. So I'm going to play it on, off, on, off. Off. On. Right? This is just, it's adding fullness to the melody, and that's like very interesting. Like, I would never, honestly, I wouldn't even use a loop like this, like even for me personally. Like, I have my own way. So now I'm already thinking like, oh, if I'm trying to make something sound big, let me get some choir vocal sounding chords. Maybe I'll grab it out of Omnisphere or something like that and layer it in. And then here's another new interesting layer that you kind of heard it. It was building a lot of tension, which is this drone. So watch how that drone sound combines with this pad. Okay, cool. So we actually have folders of these drones, and you can actually find them in our loops as well, but just listen to a handful. I just typed in the word drone. They're usually very quiet, as you can see. And they just hang on one note. And I remember Fred again is the first person I remember talking about this, but the drones just sitting in the background, that thing right there just adds emotion. Like, if I combine that with like the... If I combine that with a few things, you can... See, without that drone, you lose the emotion. That thing right there. drones are a really great way to add emotion to your melodies and stuff. And like I said, this is the second loop I've clicked open, guys. Like, this is the second loop, and I'm learning in this video. I'm learning because I'm like, okay, cool. Because I mean, I do this a lot, but we have tens of thousands of melody loops that you can really learn a lot from, and especially when it goes into like more like weird things. So let's dive in again into a completely different genre and see what else we can learn. Okay, so I'm not like a crazy guitarist or anything like that. I got a lot of those guys who work for me and work for Cymatics that I work with. So like, listen to this guitar loop, for example. And for me, I'm just thinking like one guy's playing guitar and that's like it. But then look at what's actually going on here. So many different layers. So let's just listen to a few. First, the bass. Okay. Okay. What is this? Listen how simple that is, right? I would just never think to add that on top. We're gonna keep going here. Dude, I just, you know, it's like the magic of this melody, right? Because I'm hearing like this guitarist go ham. Then I'm listening. I'm like, that's all you did, you know? And even if I can't play guitar, I want to learn how these melodies are constructed for other things. Very cool. Okay, and then we got some texture here. Listen to that. That's amazing, right? Like, you don't even know that's going on. Let's play it all together. That texture is adding so much to that little just transitioning of the melody. And now it's like, boom, I can use, because I usually use like reverse cymbals to transition. But now I'm like, oh, I can use like drone-like sounds to like ambient drone sounds to transition. But let's see what these two new sounds are back here. Oh, fire, just switching to a respace. Really cool idea. And this takes over. Damn, I would make a beat out of this right now. Okay, so already right there's a lot of cool stuff. The way it transitions here, exactly how all these like little counter melodies really play a big role on top of this main melody that's running. Because at first I thought I only heard this, but then altogether, it's crazy what kind of story the melody tells, and then being able to dive into the individual layers and pull back the curtain and kind of learn from them is honestly really what makes a lot of Cymatics samples so valuable. Because keep in mind, guys, a lot of people don't do stems and MIDI, and there's a lot to learn there. But one other thing that I want to dive into is actually our drum loops. So this is at 82 BPM, so I'm going to find a boom bat loop. Okay, so one of the other things that you can really learn is really breaking apart different genres of drums as well. Like, because drums is essentially what dictates, like if you think about a melody, you can take a melody into 10 different genres. You can take something like this and you can do a crazy EDM drop. You can make this to like a pop sounding song. You can do this into like a boom bap style. And a lot of times the thing that dictates genre is actually the drums and the drum selection. So real quick, you can actually pull in layers as well to learn about how the drums were made. So here we go, we got the same drums, but now we have layers. Okay, so the first thing I just saw real quick, observed. So, is there anything interesting about this kick? Like, just look at this kick. In my head, it was this half volume one. It's giving it it's not full volume, right? Like a lot of you guys might do something that's a little bit more like this, I guess you could say. Just kind of placing two kicks, which is cool, but just by halving the volume, and I was already aware of this trick, but I'm just trying to point it out for you guys, just gives it a little more groove and swing. Same thing if we look at the hi-hats here. We see the same thing going on, the alternating volume levels. I think that's important. And then listening to like the sound selection, right? So this melody right here, I can learn a lot about drums as well by putting drums onto it and then seeing like, okay, that's how these kind of drums are done. And now let's find something like Afrobeats. Hey guys, real quick, when you're dealing with different samples, it's very important that you match up the BPMs. You see how all these came right down on it when you're using samples? Well, when I dragged it up, I forgot to change the warp mode, and look what happened. Everything went crazy because I matched it to the drum loop without changing these. Don't forget, you need to change your settings, so I switch all audio clips to stretch. So now when I go back up to 100, everything's on time. Okay, so the Afrobeats thing is not something that, I made a lot of, but like, am I interested in it? Yeah, it's like definitely got like a Latin, like good feel. It's definitely like a something that's getting more and more popular. So real quick, I'm gonna drag in these Afrobeat drums real quick. So first thing, 4 on the floor. Okay, easy. 4 on the floor, 100 BPM. What else we got? Now you have a perfect already right there. Okay, cool. To get a little extra groove, you see some volume automations with these rim shots. And then also over here, there's something interesting happening as well. So let's listen here. Listen to that. Cool. Some really cool rim shot action going on. That's keeping a lot of that rhythm. Now this is insane. Okay, so I would do 2 things. One, if I'm making something, I might save this loop and go out and use it, in one of my own. I might use 2 different layers together. I might be like, oh, I like both these layers. Because that's one cool thing too. You'll find individual layers that you like, you'll incorporate to your own production, but listen to the shakers. I mean, right? It's like 2 or 3 different shakers, a pitch down shaker, different volume levels, just giving this whole thing tons of swing. Listen to that. What is that? Sounds like a tin can hitting. So then that might give you the idea, right? So you can go into, some of our packs, go into drum kit. You can go into like percussion, right? And sometimes, right? Go in, grab. So I might drag in, if I'm trying to do this genre, I'm going to drag in some little percussive sounds like this because as I'm studying, I'm like, and all of a sudden, I can actually do the next thing I want to talk about, which is tracing over the actual drum loops themselves. So now I'm kind of adding to the loop itself just by tracing on top. You could do that same thing for finding different sounds for another element of it. So it's kind of like a little rim shot here. So I'm going to paste where this rim is, and I'm even going to go off the grid a little bit because I'm not doing this to like make a hit. I'm trying to like study and learn to hear what's going on. I'm like, okay, I see them off the grid just a little bit. So as I'm pasting it in, I'm trying to replicate something similar. I see the volume levels are different, so I'm just doing some quick volume adjustments. Like this one's much, much louder, so I'm going to drag it here. I'm going to make it a lot louder. I'm going to drag one here. I'm going to make this one a little quieter. Okay, so already I have created one. And then let me listen to this. So already I'm catching a similar vibe. So if I were to put this in, as you can see, I've only done the first half of it, but you can already. So then the shakers. Let's take a shaker. Oh, these are cool. These are Foley sounds, by the way. These are real good for finding that weird shit. We have a bunch of Foley. Foley can be really great for that. It's kind of So already I'm kind of hearing this shaker, this main shaker right here. We'll isolate it. Tut, 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 right? And if you zoom in, you can kind of see if it's on time or not. Okay, let's hear the ones we're missing. I'm hearing some panning, so I'm scooting back real quick. It's like a different shaker, so let's find it. Okay, we'll just use this one as a... So these are the main 2 spots. I see the second shaker coming in. Okay, and then there's this little thing, like, I don't know what this is. It's like that and a low one. It's like a pitch down one. So I'm going to take one of the shakers here, and I'm actually going to make it unique, and I'm going to pitch this down. So now it sounds like this. I'm gonna put it right on top of there. And then let me listen to what this little sound was. It's like a little tick, little. Watch, I can actually drag this in. And the irony here is I'm not gonna use this whole thing. I'm just gonna use just this. I'm gonna kind of like, so it's just a little hit. This sounds like another little hit, rhythmic hit here, but I'm going to pitch it down a little. And then I see these two being used again over here, seems like. So I have now created dude, I have never, honestly, this is the first time I've ever made shakers that sounded like some Afrobeat shakers. And I'm just like getting a rough idea by sketching. And already right there, I'm like, I probably would change these two sounds. I'm already thinking like, oh, this sound needs to be maybe something else. Kind of like the way that feels better. Right? And then you can just isolate. I can just A-B and learn. Dude, this is the type of shit that if you guys do for 20, 30 minutes a day outside of making music, because sometimes getting great at music isn't always about making music. It's working on individual skills that come together when you finally make a full song. As you can see here, I've really got some cool new rhythms that I'm not really used to making, to be honest with you. I'm going to combine it with the original kick, and then I'm going to play some of my new sounds. And all of a sudden, I've got a really cool rhythm. And keep in mind, guys, this is the same shit. Even the kick. So what you can do is, one, you could just like steal the kick. But then what I could do is I could go into like one of our drum kicks. It's like a little thicker one. So I'm going to keep diving in. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let me check something else. And I'm looking for like a replica. That one's pretty close, right? So if I want to match the mix, right, there's actually a good way to get really great mixes, is really like thinking about the one-shot selection. But as you can see, it's also off the grid a little bit. These are a little bit swung. Look at it. They're not right on. So now, just so with some of the new elements that we just made by hand, as you can see right there, we've created this Afrobeats type vibe. Now I've learned a lot about how this genre does drums, because you guys think about stuff, you can learn about drill, you can learn about EDM, you can learn about dubstep, you can learn about vintage sounding music. The Layers has all the sauce. Like, keep in mind, guys, this was not a thing that you could do back in like the 90s or early 2000s or something like that, because you're just listening on like, let's say SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, the radio, and you're hearing everything. And sometimes all of that creates a certain layer of magic that's really hard to depict things. But one of the advantages that we have today is we have resources that have stem layers. So studying these individual layers is actually going to make you a lot better at music, because a lot of these question marks about what you should work on or how do you do this can be answered just by diving into the individual layer. And when it comes to melodies, you can play around and really start to reverse engineer what is making a certain melody special. And when it comes to drums, it's even easier, because you can actually just find different one shots and practice tracing right on top of the drum loop, tracing right on top of the different layers, and you will learn a lot about creating great drums in every single genre of music, guys. This technique is not something you need to spend a whole week on, a month on, 100 hours on. It's something you do 10 minutes a day. Like, all right, I'm going to trace one drum loop a day. Let's say you're making Afrobeats for the next, every day, 10 minutes a day. Say, take an Afrobeats loop, try to trace it, take a melody, try to reverse engineer it, learn about it. And then you just do it every day for a little bit. And then what'll happen is that'll really build a foundational skill. So then when you're in the music making mode, you're in the studio, you're not sitting there thinking about, oh, how do I do this? Dude, you grinded it before. The skill set is built in. And then when you go to actually make music, you shouldn't be thinking, you should just be flowing out your ideas. So that really concludes this lesson on how to use stem layers for both melody loops and drum loops to learn a lot about production. This is going to be one of those skills that essentially, without even watching another lesson on this course, if you only were to dive in to Cymatics samples and open up the melody loops, open up the drum loops, you can learn actually a lot of different production stuff just from that itself. I'm telling you guys, this is a big cheat code when it comes to learning and getting better at production. For today's exercise, it's actually going to be really easy. I want you to take 3 different melody loops from a Cymatics pack. You can pick any Cymatics packs. We have free ones, paid ones. It really does not matter. Almost every single one of our packs, all the samples have stem layers, and I want you to break down 3 different samples and 3 different genres of music, so that way you can learn a little bit. Pick one that you really love, another one that you might be interested in, and another one that you wouldn't normally pick, right? So if you're a hip hop producer, pick like an R&B loop, pick a trap loop, and then maybe also pick pick like a dubstep loop, right? Because you want to see something completely different, explore something different. If you're an EDM person, pick an EDM loop, pick like a guitar loop, and then pick something you wouldn't normally pick, like a vintage loop or something, because I think there's a lot of value to doing that. And then what I want you to do is I want you to pick 3 different genres of drums and kind of do the same thing. I want you to explore, but when you go to the drums, I don't want you to just study the sample, but I actually want you to trace over and remake the drum loop by tracing each individual layer, finding new one-shots for it. And if you need to be reminded of anything, feel free to come back to this video and watch it again. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson. Peace out. If you guys liked this video, it is actually a module from my free course, The Art of Sampling, where I dive into everything you need to know on how to make really incredible music by using sampling. It's something I've been doing for 13 years, and I'm really excited. And by the way, there's exercises and download files, so if you don't want to miss out on really what this course has to offer, click the link below. It is all free. And if you like The Art of Sampling, it's actually a part of a bigger online music program called The Art of Music Production. So when you click the link below, you can check out not only The Art of Sampling for free and some of our free courses, but if you're interested, you can also check out The Art of Music Production. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and make sure you check out the full Art of Sampling.